Okay guys, so in this video we'll do a couple more composite functions and then we're going to talk a little bit about domain. So in this problem they want us to do g of h of t, which means I'm just going to do h of t first and then plug that into g. That's what it literally means. I'm going to do one function, plug that function into the other function. That's what a composite function is all about. So here's h of t already done for us. How convenient. So if I want to do g of h of t, I'm literally going to take h of t and plug it inside of g. So g of h of t is going to be 2. Notice how I'm using parentheses when I substitute or input another value. Minus 2. So again, all I did was g of t said 2 times t minus 2. So now I'm doing 2 times h there minus 2. Here I'm going to do my distributive property. So negative 2t minus 8 minus 2. So what I really have is just negative 2t minus 6. That's g of h of t. Now what about the domain? Remember, the domain are your x input values, or what they could be. And this is a linear function, guys. There is no limit. I could put in any negative number like negative 1 million if I wanted to. It's still going to work, right? It's going to be a huge negative number, but it's going to work. I could plug in any positive number. Again, as big as I want. You know, I could put in 1325 or whatever. Again, it's going to give me a large number. Actually, technically, this one's going to give me a large negative. This one, because I have a negative there, is going to give me a large positive number. So sorry about speaking there a little bit. But in other words, the domain for this one, big D if you want to call it, is all real numbers. Sometimes they'll just use a big curly R to represent that. Sometimes you'll put it in what we call, I believe, interval notation, where you'll just say negative infinity to positive infinity. Another way of saying you could put in any number you want. Pause the video there if you need to. Okay, now look at number 10 here. They want us to do f of g of x, but then g of f of x, which is a cool thing to do because you ought to realize that more times than not that these will be different results. Okay, you ought to remember that. Matter of fact, one of the only times they're going to be the same is when they're inverses of each other, as you'll find out sooner or later. But anyways, let's do f of g of x in red, and then we'll do g of f of x in purple. So what am I going to do for f of g of x is I'm going to take g of x and literally put it inside or input it into function f. So here is g of x, and I'm just going to put it right in there. So f of g of x is going to be 1 over, and this x now is our g, which is 2x squared. Make sure I did. I'm assuming, oh, that's a minus, sorry. That's a minus. I thought that may have been a times. Ooh, glad I caught that. So it's just 1 over 2 minus x squared. Again, I'm assuming that's a minus right there, guys. Hopefully I'm right. And so there we go. Now let's talk about the domain here. Okay. Remember, you can never divide by 0. So if this becomes 0, I'm taking 1 here. I'm dividing by 0. In other words, you would get a vertical asymptote. Hopefully you know that. So basically, I'm going to take 2 minus x squared, solve it for 0 to see where it can't work. And if I minus 2 both sides, negative x squared equals negative 2. Let's go ahead and do a negative on both sides. And now we can do a square root. So x could be positive square root 2 or negative square root 2. Remember, guys, square roots will always give you two answers now. A positive answer and a negative answer. Now, these two numbers, if I plug them in, are going to cause us to get a divide by 0, right? So that's why this time we're basically going to say all real numbers except, again, talk to your teacher about what symbol they want to use, except x cannot equal square root 2. That's a cross out. Or, so I'll just say x cannot equal plus or minus square root 2. The way I prefer it, though, is I'll just say I know it can be from negative infinity to negative 2 combined with union, right? Let's see here. Actually, okay, guys, I did a minor little mental mistake there. So it's going to be negative infinity to negative square root of 2, union with everything from negative square root 2 to positive square root 2, union with square root 2 to positive infinity. And now that I come to think of it, I don't like that answer for my domain. How about this one? We know that x can be the element of all real numbers, except, we'll put a little vertical bar there, x cannot equal plus or minus square root 2. I think I like that one better. What do you guys think? But talk to your teacher about how she wants you to write the domain. Follow what he or she says, because that's how they're going to grade you. Okay? Now, let's do g of f of x. Okay, I cleaned it up a little bit, as you can see. So what I'm going to do is take f of x now and put it in g. Notice that's the reverse of f of g of x. So this time I'm going to take f of x and put it in the g. That's g of f of x. All right? Think of it as you're working inside out, right? Inside goes out. But anyways, so g of f of x is going to be 2 minus 1 over x squared. Notice I use parentheses, guys, as I inputted f inside of g. So this becomes 2 minus 1 over x squared. There's our function. Now notice, where can it not be? It cannot be when that equals 0. Of course, that's easy to solve. If x squared equals 0, x would therefore equal 0, right? So I'm just going to go with the way I've decided I like it best. I'm going to say brace or bracket. X will be the element of all real numbers. We're talking domain here, guys. Except x cannot equal 0. Nice, simple, short. That's the way I like it. But again, make sure you discuss it with your teacher and make sure he or she has a particular format. Maybe it's this one, maybe it's not. But get that straight with your teacher, please. I hate for you to miss a problem like this because you can't write the domain correctly. Okay? But the bottom line, with g of f, I can't have it equal 0, right? With f of g, I cannot have it equal square root 2 or negative square root 2. All other numbers would work for that. Now also notice, guys, that g or f of g is different than g of f. And that's going to happen more times than not. Try to remember that as well. Okay? But anyways, guys, this is how, again, you work with and do composite functions. Let me know if you need extra example problems to do, but maybe these 2 videos will suffice. I'll see you guys around.